Welcome to this explainer. Grab a seat, get comfortable, and let's just take a quick breath. Today, we're putting on our clinical hats to look at a psychological dynamic that is incredibly common, deeply unsettling, and honestly, way more misunderstood than it should be. Have you ever been in a relationship, romantic, platonic, maybe even professional, where you felt totally secure and then, seemingly overnight, you felt this creeping sense of inadequacy? Just a sudden, sharp spike of jealousy over someone you literally never gave a second thought to before? Look, you aren't imagining things, and more importantly, you aren't going crazy. Today, we're unpacking a highly specific, covert behavioral pattern, and by the end of this, you're going to have a name for it, clear tools to spot it, and the confidence to shut it down. Why are you suddenly competing for attention you used to get for free? I really want you to just sit with that question for a second. It's a completely confusing emotional roller coaster, right? Going from feeling uniquely valued to suddenly feeling like you're a contestant in some weird pageant you never even signed up for. You might catch yourself asking, wait, am I just being insecure? Am I being totally paranoid? But here's what relationship psychology actually tells us. This sudden urge to compete, this completely random dip in your self-esteem, it's rarely a random internal failing. Actually, it's almost always a perfectly natural reaction to a hidden external stimulus. Basically, someone's pressing a button in the dark, and you are simply reacting to the shock. Okay, let's dive into this. The clinical term for what you're experiencing is triangulation. In a nutshell, triangulation is the act of deliberately introducing a third person into a relationship to create jealousy, competition, or insecurity. And here's the kicker. This third person doesn't even need to be physically in the room. They just need to take up space in the conversation. Now, the manipulator's goal here isn't necessarily to leave you for this third person. No, the goal is just to keep you off balance. It's a well-documented manipulation tactic designed to keep the target, which is you, completely distracted. When we look at this through a clinical lens, we can completely take the blame off your shoulders. Your jealousy isn't some personality flaw. It is the exact intended outcome of a manipulator's playbook. Section 1. Spotting the patterns. Identifying subtle red flags in your relationships. Let's look at how this actually plays out in everyday conversation. We've got innocent conversation on one side and toxic comparison on the other. Look, it's completely normal for a partner to mention that a coworker got a promotion, right? That's just sharing their day. But a toxic comparison, that's when they casually and constantly compare you unfavorably to that coworker, saying things like, Sarah is just so organized. Her desk is literally always perfect. I really wish our kitchen looked like that. Notice the tone there. It's light, it seems harmless enough, but it leaves this tiny little sting. You have to understand that this casual comparison is rarely, if ever, actually about Sarah. It's entirely about keeping you slightly insecure, making you feel like you're just falling short, so you become way more eager to please the manipulator. Here is another incredibly common pattern to watch out for. Think about the difference between normal past references and what we call the convenient mention. Obviously, sharing dating history is a healthy, normal part of getting to know someone. But you need to pay very close attention to the timing of when a past partner is brought up. If your partner suddenly mentions how understanding their ex used to be right after you just expressed a boundary or had a disagreement, yeah, that is not a coincidence. That is a convenient mention. The third person, the ex, is literally being weaponized. They're being used as a tool for leverage in your current conflict, to make you back down, to make you feel like you're being the difficult one. When diagnosing this behavior, timing is absolutely everything. And this brilliantly illustrates how pervasive this tactic really is, because it doesn't just happen in romantic relationships, it absolutely infects friendships and family dynamics too. In friendships, for example, a manipulator might tell two different friends slightly different versions of the exact same story. What does this do? Well, it creates this quiet tension and suspicion between the friends while both of them remain loyal to the manipulator. In families, it often looks like a parent playing siblings against each other, creating competing loyalties so that they remain this central figure of authority and affection. The mechanics are the exact same across the board. Insert a third party, create instability, and sit back and reap the benefits of being the center of attention. Section 2. The psychology. Why the triangulation trick actually works. So here is a look at the sheer imbalance of where our mental energy goes when this happens. When you're being triangulated, research shows that roughly 90% of your mental energy is spent competing with that third party. You're obsessing over the coworker, maybe stalking the ex's social media, wondering why you aren't as organized or easygoing as they supposedly are. And that leaves a measly 10% of your energy, if that, to actually look at the person sitting across from you and question their toxic behavior. Triangulation absolutely thrives on this distraction. Jealousy is such a primal, consuming emotion that it just eats up all your bandwidth. You become so laser-focused on winning the manipulator's approval that you completely forget to ask yourself if this person is even worth winning in the first place. Section 3. The treatment plan. Actionable steps to reclaim your personal confidence. All right, here is your concrete 3-step treatment plan to handle this. Step 1. Recognize the pattern. Honestly, you're already doing this just by engaging with this explainer. You now know exactly what triangulation is. So when you feel that sudden, irrational spike of jealousy, just pause. Don't react to the emotion. Just observe the dynamic. Step 2. Refuse to compete. The game literally only works if you agree to play. When that coworker is mentioned, do not try to prove you're better. Just let it hang in the air. And step 3, which is definitely the most powerful of all, calmly name the behavior out loud. You don't need to yell, you don't need to accuse, you just plainly say, "It feels like you're comparing me to your ex right now," or "I noticed you bring up Sarah a lot whenever we argue." When you calmly name the pattern, you shatter the illusion. You completely break the manipulator's rhythm. So the crucial point is this. The tactic only works when nobody points at it directly. Triangulation is essentially a covert operation. It relies entirely on shadows, on your silence, and on your blind participation. But the moment you shine a light on it, the exact moment you verbally acknowledge, "Hey, I see the strings you're pulling," the power dynamic instantly flips. A manipulator relies heavily on you being way too embarrassed by your own jealousy to call out what is actually happening. When you point at it directly, the trick is just over. I really want to leave you with this final grounding thought. You should never, ever have to compete for basic respect. If you are in a dynamic where your worth is constantly being measured against some phantom third party, that is not love. That is not friendship. That is control. You are inherently worthy of secure, steady relationships that do not require you to constantly prove your value. So, now that you're equipped to recognize these dark psychology patterns, I want you to ask yourself, where in your life are you currently auditioning for a role you already earned? And what would happen if you simply refused to perform? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep your eyes open, protect your peace, and I'll catch you next time.